into the fray here. Let me lean into it, as it were. I just have to get a bunch of stuff going that I'd already shut down. So, to add to what we're going to get into, or what we've already gotten into. Now, I've done a couple of pieces previous on a documentary. 4 hours, okay, no problem, man. I got 4 hours worth of stuff. 4 to 8, we got it, man. But yeah, so I've done a couple shows on. There's a particular documentary, ladies and gentlemen, that you would really enjoy. Hey, Greenheart, one. There's a movie called Cybertopia. It's a documentary, and it's basically a movie about the Silicon Valley. And let me see here. Let me see what I can. Let me open up some stuff here, and let me see if I can crank up. I might have some tape from Cybertopia right here on my reel-to-reel, my digital reel-to-reel. Hold on a second. Let me take a look for it. So, yeah, the thing about it is we were talking about the sinister, the sort of sinister aspect of what's, already available from a technological standpoint. But at the same time, like we were saying, you get smacked with the left hand, but the right hand is, giving you a foot massage, because some of the technology that is out there for us to benefit from has potential to really change the world in a good way, But unfortunately, there's quite a bit of negativity surrounding technology in and of itself. I mean, the first thing you hear is, number of the beast and all this. But it's funny. I mean, I just find it ironic that some of the loudest guys that were out there screaming about number of the beast, there were some of the guys that made the most money off Bitcoin when it came out. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the thing about it is like, what are you going to do? See, like I told you guys, I live here in Silicon Valley, so I've worked at all of these companies that everybody talks about on a daily basis, about the horrors and all this. Let me just say this. If you work in the Silicon Valley at these companies, you don't have a choice, okay? When you go there, for example, let's say you're just a technologist, somebody that does work, fixes systems, that kind of thing. You show up there to go do your thing that day. Well, they want to picture your face, okay? They want you to sign in and all this. And unless you do that, you don't get to come inside. So that's basically the way it's going to be. It'll be like that. It'll be like, well, hey, man, don't worry about it. You don't have to get the ID, but if you don't have it, you just can't come inside. That's all. You have to go out there and live in the camps and the FEMA camps with all the people that don't have IDs. Those will be enemy combatants, illegal immigrants, and whatever else name they want to give to homeless people and all this. They'll just grab them, they'll scoop them all up and throw them right in the work camps. Those FEMA camps everybody's so scared about. Those are going to be for the people that don't want to sign up for the ID program. Everybody else, you get the ID. Now you got the ID. No, don't worry about it. You can go wherever you need to go. You don't even have to worry about the airport anymore. And people are always pissed about going to the airport, getting frisked. I mean, they'll still frisk you, but you still got to have the ID. They'll just still pick you out. I mean, if you're good looking, you'll get frisked. I mean, usually that's the way it goes. I mean, I'm sure they all sit around. They'll sit around the back room. I mean, that's sick. Seriously. But my name's Jimmy. I'm not down with the sickness. And that's why I do radio. I like to point at it and make fun of it, at the ridiculousness of it, that it's gone on as long as it has. Mostly it's because, my generation, we didn't realize we had to actually be involved. We were running around partying, living it up, having a good time. and all the other responsible World War II vets and all the people from that generation that were doing all the hard work of voting and doing everything, and taking care of everything. When the next generation came along, those hippie parents really didn't try to over control their kids and make them get into the system, And so as a result of that, we have children growing up who were really not really indoctrinated into the political system like the generation previous. In the generation previously, you were not patriotic if you didn't vote. Okay, the reason that it was a big deal to vote is because lots of people came here from places where they couldn't vote, where they didn't have a say. And they were, the country was built on immigration with people coming from other countries. And so when they got the ability to have a say, to go fight for their country, to go vote, they did that because they felt that was what they needed to do. That was their part that they were going to put in. And that's how they were going to make it happen. But now, hey, Journeyman. Hey, the Epic Journeyman, my co-host, just joined us in the chat room. If you're around, you can join us in the show here, Journeyman. I can call you. Let me know in the chat there. Yeah, so, the bottom line is, we're beyond the point of trying to make the horse get back in the barn. I guess what we got to do now is how to try to figure out how to ride the wild bronco of technology that's busted out of the chute. Most of these dudes can only sit on the back of a bull for 8 seconds, man, before they end on the ground. So it's the same with this technology. I mean, any government that thinks that they're going to tell Google what to do, I mean, if Google, all they have to do is stop finishing your sentences when you're typing in the search box, and the whole world would come to a complete halt. I got sidetracked when Journeyman showed up there, and I forgot what I was on the track of earlier. So if you guys want to remind me, I'll get back to it. But other than that, I'm just gonna keep going. So what I'm doing is I'm over here now. I just remember at least what I was doing. I'm gonna try to find this Cybertopia audio that I have here, this tape, and once I do, Epic's still at lunch. Once I do find this Cybertopia, then we will be in business. Let's see. I think this may be something. Here, hang on a second.
Twitter, to name but a few.
Yeah, here we go. All right, here we go. I got some audio I'm going to run for you guys right now, and then we can get back into it. I'm sorry I got sidetracked because I was on to something, and I was going to make a point, and right when Epic showed up. So and saying hello to him got me totally sidetracked. So here we go. Check some of this out here.
Your personal information is gathered and stored everywhere, all the time. Every single thing you do with your cell phone and your computer is registered and analyzed by companies like Google, Facebook, Apple and Twitter, to name but a few. All these personal data forms the heart of something called big data, a treasure trove of valuable new insights deduced from your location settings, emails, photographs, text and everything else you do digitally. This makes all your personal information very valuable. Companies pay good money to find out everything about you, and they use it for a lot more than just targeted advertising. Your personal data can be used to predict the future, and that's where the big money is. Your money. coming up on this program.
Certainly we're able to find indicators of a person's interest and purchase intent that they may be giving subconsciously.
The Google business plan is the greatest threat to freedom on the internet, greater than the NSA, greater than any censor, because it's directly making money from controlling what people know about.
The key is to regard the data as an asset. It's something that's valuable, something that you have, and to think of it a little bit like money.
Welcome to the future. All your personal information that is stored and kept is worth a lot of money. The things you post on Facebook, the tweets you post, the photographs you take, the text you send. Even when you do nothing, you produce data. And even that data are worth money.
Even though the companies that want your data promote what they call openness, Facebook says, share, you have to share. Even though they want that, the truth is that their own operations they keep very secret. So it's very hard to know how much people have paid each other for access to your data. We don't know the total amount. We do know that it's substantial, though. We do know that the market value...
The mass acceptance of smartphones and tablets has made gathering and storing your personal data extremely easy and cheap. A lot of data are stored and kept without you noticing.
Even if we control all of our information almost perfectly, people around us can leak information that compromises us. If
the amount of stored data about you has risen exponentially.
Information, moreover, it's public.
Your information, in some technical sense, depending on what country, your information might be owned by you, but you don't have the power of ownership. You don't have the power to decide not to sell it. You don't have the power to set your own price. You have no power at all. Because the problem is that you have to click through on these agreements, or maybe you're just observed. Now, but then there are third parties who aggregate the information and analyze you. Those parties control your information. Whether they own it technically is a different question, but they control your information.
Right now, it's scattered everywhere. Your bank knows something, the government knows something, your phone company knows something, Google knows something, Facebook knows something, your workplace knows something. So it's hard to say, right? It's certainly gigabytes of data.
This is Alex Pentland. He's a professor of the MIT Media Lab in Boston and one of the world's most famous experts on big data. He knows everything that can be done with our personal information, and he also knows the risks.
So this thing it's on there right now. That's a diagram of my social health, my mental health. And what it does is it measures, without my doing anything, it measures how much socialization I get, how's my activity, do I have a regular focused pattern.
Okay, so this is part of what I was talking about earlier. This guy is from MIT, and he's basically he's head of a department that looks at this type of data, this type of information. And the reason it's important is because when you, in and of itself, it doesn't mean anything. But see, when you're a systems integrator, what you do is you get a product like this, and you tie it to other products that have capabilities, and so you can take compartmentalized applications to achieve an overall result without having the machine. You don't have to build the machine because you can make the machine out of virtual machines into one giant machine to have some kind of an end result, as a machine to achieve a result. And any result that you want at this point. And what we're talking about tonight, though, and right now, is psychology, because that's what we do talk quite a bit about in the microcosm. And we like to show the microcosmic aspect of it. That way you can extrapolate it yourself, man. You can lay the same thing we're showing you right here on this, on just throughout everything. Think of everything you do on the internet Just think about this app this guy's talking about. Here we go.
Of work and life. And those are all things that are diagnostic criteria for mental illness. This has three things. It says social, activity, and focus. And so social is easy to understand, right? That's like, do you call up your friends? Do you call them regularly? Phones also know when other people are around because they can look at the Wi-Fi signals and the Bluetooth signals. If you imagine someone who's very depressed, maybe they just stay inside all the time. This was developed for soldiers. So when soldiers are released from the military, they come back home, they often have a hard time integrating back into society. So, if you see one of your buddies is not doing so well, you can give them a call. That's a major way to address things like mental illness. On the other hand, if it was the government doing this, it would be really scary. Yeah. Okay.
6 months ago, the American
That surprises you? Freeing to just give all my information to some
internet companies like Google and Facebook. In fact, as it turned out, these companies actively cooperate in sharing. 6 months ago, the American whistleblower Edward Snowden first revealed how the NSA has access to personal data stored with internet companies like Google and Facebook. In fact, as it turned out, these companies actively cooperate in sharing your data with the authorities.
I mean, this is just the bizarre thing to me, that people give their personal information to Facebook. They say, oh, I think it's very hip and very cool and very youthful and very freeing to just give all my information to some company in California. And then people are shocked that the National Security Administration, the NSA, has been forcing those companies to give them the data. You're shocked, really? That surprises you? I mean, don't make the stupid decision in the first place. I mean, this is the thing, that people are open to abuse and then they're surprised that they're abused. I mean, let's, one of the things that simply has to change is people have to stop being so passive.
Im Internet kann man schon sehr lange darüber nachlesen, dass die Geheimdienste alles mitschneiden und das, was technisch möglich ist, auch gemacht wird. Nur, ich.
Other people watching cameras and listening to microphones. And so now we have far more detailed measurements about people and almost all the people in the world.
Der mich jetzt verrät oder Angst.
Hold on.
He could never have foreseen.
Yeah.
And so now
here we go.
We have George Orwell,
Large internet companies like Google and Facebook can be...
It was always bullshit. Everybody knew that. And yet somehow we bought into it. And my personal opinion is that this type of advertising, even though it's ridiculous and annoying in many cases, has been essential to our well-being, because people are habit-bound, and modernity has required people to change habits, and advertising has been the way that we've done that. And I think that's mostly been for the better. So overall, I'm happy with traditional advertising. I'm glad it exists. However, what we're talking about in the internet era is not advertising as we knew it. Instead, what this is about is micromanagement of the options in front of you. And so it's really not behavior modification, but behavior restriction. So there's only a limited amount of screen space. There are only a limited number of seconds with which you can look at any device you have, your phone or tablet or whatever. And so if Google or Facebook can say, okay, here you see this option, that is not just a question of influence. It's not just a question of suggestion. It's not just a question of making something available to you you wouldn't have known about. It's actually restricting your options within a very narrow scope. So it's a very important distinction.
Because you once said that Google was not, you were kind of hesitant in calling Google an advertising company.
Yeah, Google is not an advertising company, because what they make 95% of their money, essentially everything, not from advertising that has any sense of style or any sense of persuasion. It's simply from micromanaging the limited number of options in front of you. So it's more a behavioral option management company.
Brian D'Alessandro is a data scientist with Distillery, a large online marketing agency in New York. He analyzes the behavior you give away via your cell phone and computer.
Every single thing you do, now with mobile phones, there's every location that you visit physically can be recorded. And on the web, like I said, every website that you visit can be recorded. So these atomic little actions that you take are, in essence, what big data is today. It's every little thing you do. This person is going into Starbucks, so they like their high-end coffees, and this person is going to McDonald's, so they like their fast food. These stores are right next to each other, but the person chooses one or the other. Yeah. That already tells me a lot about that person. Maybe what kind of budget they have, whether or not they're health conscious.
Hi, I'm Rex Moore with the
like
Motley
that.
Fool.
Now,
I'm in the
if you can follow that person through the whole day, then I have a lot more richer history. And with more people with rich histories, then I could really start finding really interesting patterns and actually use them at a certain scale.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what I'm after is understanding human behavior, human interactions. Big data is about behavior, because an individual only has so many data points that describe who they are as a person. How many demographics does a person really need to get a good sense of them? But your behavior trails, I won't call them infinite, but they're very long. Our firm is collecting data off of people's personal computers as well as tablets and mobile devices. So when we collect information about an individual, we're not really interested in who the person is. So I don't need to know their name. Where they live isn't so important. What's more important is that this person is potentially looking to buy a new car, or they're looking to buy a particular item of clothing. And so that type of information can be inferred based on your browsing habits. Certainly, we're able to find indicators of a person's interest and purchase intent that
My name's Jimmy. That's right.
God in heaven, you know I love you.
So that's what's going on with big data. And so, I want to point out, it's the bottom of the hour, 4:30 Pacific on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You can join us in the chat room, interactive chat room over at the website. Go on over there and join us. We're having a good time. There's people swinging from the rafters in there. I think I see a game of quarters going on. It's down at the end of the bar. I think that even might have been a twerk contest going on as when those horns were playing there, man. That's the horns from a song called Vehicle. But I can't play the song Vehicle because it's clear it's about somebody with a big black car that's offering somebody some candy. So clearly, back in the day when I listened to it, I didn't think anything of it. But now when I listen to it, it's got kind of a smells a little fishy. But my name's Jimmy. I can find a conspiracy in anything. God damn it. Here we go. Humans, gods, and technology, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the brink of, it was the dawning of the age of Aquarius, and now we are in the age of Aquarius, okay? The time has arrived for the next big change. How's that going to happen? Well, in the past, it's only happened one way. We've only moved forward into the future with wars. And I don't think there's a peaceful way into the future. I don't know. We'll see. Let's hope. Let's pray. But listen here. Listen to the little bit of this as we got 30 minutes left, and that's not a lot of time. So I'm going to get into a little bit of this, and then we come back. I'll see if I can figure out how to take calls and to give you guys a phone number. You can see the number. It's over on the website, freedomslips.com, and that is Freedom's Lips. Freedomslips.com, not Freedom Slips. Freedom's not slipping. If you think we're slipping, you're tripping. Because right here is freedom of speech. Freedom of speech on Revolution Radio. I'm knee deep in the revolution. I might not be Mr. Right, but I'm definitely Mr. Right now, or at least Mr. Next 28 minutes. And check some of this out.
Humans according to his wishes. Now we are learning how to design and create life.
From now on, your name is Kara.
My name is Kara.
Initialization and memorization checked.
Humans are present with many, many others from their species wandering around on this planet. As naked apes, we once tamed fire, and afterwards every form of new technology determined our development. Now that we've cracked the code of life, it will not take much longer before we can start to play God.
The big question is what kind of gods we will be. Will we be merciful and wise gods, or will we be petty, vengeful, and irresponsible gods?
With our biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and nanotechnology, it seems we possess all the ingredients to start our own process of creation. But how to deal with this? And what does it mean for our species? Those are big questions.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think that this is going to be the agenda for the next century, is that we will be involved in deciding, either individually or as a society, who we want to be. What does it mean to be a human?
But I've only just been born. You can't kill me yet. Stop, will you please stop? I'm scared.
This is Backlight. Will we become gods, or are we making new gods? Due to the emergence of artificial intelligence, humanity is on the eve of great change. Technological development is going so fast and is so far-reaching that we must search for an interpretation of it all. Historian Yuval Harari has developed his vision of the future by studying the past. His Israeli roots are of crucial importance to the formation of his view of the future.
Well, I think that living in Israel and in the Middle East gives you a different perspective on the modern age and on technology in general. Now we live, my husband and me, in this small village, which is exactly midway between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. And I think it's...
He lives, him and his husband. Now, I'm pointing that out because, not that it's a big deal and that I care, but I'm just saying what he's talking about is the future of mankind and people in positions of authority in the future who will govern whether or not certain people live or die, whether they should be a drain on the system or not based on their contribution to the overall whole. If your time is up and you have no further use to the system has no use for you at some point. They're not going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars keeping somebody alive, and somebody's going to be making decisions about how that's going to go. And there are going to be people in these insurance companies and everything else, these governing bodies that have no one that watches over them. So here we go.
Kind of metaphor for where I stand as a scientist, as a historian. On the one hand, I see Jerusalem with all the religious fervor and the history and the conflict and so forth. And on the other hand, there is Tel Aviv with all the high-tech and gay parade and vibrant 21st century modern society. And I guess if I lived in a place like Silicon Valley, I would not see this side of reality which Jerusalem represents. But because I live in Israel, in the Middle East, there is no way I'm going to forget the enormous power that religion and mythology and human beliefs have on history. In the end, it's not the engineers that determine what to do with technology. It's the priests and ideologues and politicians. They determine what to do with the technology that the engineers invent.
Yeah, that was what was interesting when Geordie Rose did this interview, and he was talking about his AI robotic company that he's working on up in Canada. And he said, I don't build these, the robots that I build, or, I'm just calling them robots, but, these advanced robotics that we build are not evil. And right, and the thing is like what he's doing is he's putting it out there, but he's not taking responsibility. In other words, if I make a product, or if I've come up with a piece of technology, it's just like real magic that we talk about from an esoteric nature. It's all in the intent. Technology is the same as magic, and magic is the same as technology. One is a physically represented piece of equipment that does something. Okay, the other one is the same and just as powerful, and the equipment is not the same. It doesn't look the same, but it does the same thing. These are powers at work. And it's not the robot in and of itself, it's not evil. But if I buy that robot to be a club swinging cop, to put in on protest, to bust your skull if I see you doing anything wrong, it's not his fault. Because he designed the best robot he could, right? I mean, if you're somebody in the technology business, they're going, hey, anything in the world is possible. Hey, what if I could do this? What if I could do that? What if I could do this? And there's nobody standing over anybody saying, hey, don't do that. Because one of these things just might end up turning everything into gray goo, It's like something gets out. It's like you see that movie 12 Monkeys, that thing. They keep going back in time trying to figure out where the release of the biological agent was. Well, check it out.
Harari's story is catching. He effortlessly defines the connection between the past and the future and explains what influence the development of technology has had on humanity. He's now using all of that knowledge to give us his vision for the future.
Looking at the last few decades, humankind had immense achievements, in particular bringing under our control famine, plague, and war. Today, for the first time in history, more people die from eating too much than from eating too little, which is an amazing achievement. More people die from old age than from infectious diseases. And more people commit suicide than are killed by human violence because of the decline in the number of violent deaths. So these are amazing achievements. At the same time, we are also destroying the ecological system. We are also driving more and more animals and plants into extinction. And the new powers that we are gaining now, especially the powers of biotechnology and artificial intelligence, are really going to transform us into gods. And I don't mean this as a kind of literary metaphor. I mean it in a literal sense. that humans are acquiring divine abilities, especially the ability to create and to design life.
We've reached the point where the technology which we ourselves have developed is allowing us to play God. But how are we dealing with this? Because our relationship with new technology has never been self-evident. We're often frightened about it, but also realize at the same time that we would be completely lost without technology.
Yeah, Homo sapiens is a domesticated animal. When we say a domesticated animal, we usually think about cows, about horses, about dogs, but we are as domesticated, if not more, than the cows and the dogs and the pigs and so forth. We still have, of course, the same bodies, the same brain that we had as wild people in the Stone Age. But today, almost all of us are utterly dependent on the huge domesticated network of agriculture and industry and, you know, the state and the police. And we can't, you take a human being today and you drop him or her in some jungle or in the African savannah, they will be dead in a few days. They can't survive by themselves. In the Stone Age, in order to survive, you need every day to solve very difficult problems of how to find mushrooms, how to hunt deer, how to escape lions, how to make your own food, your own clothes, your own medicine, how to find your way around the world. You need to know a lot in order to do that. In contrast, today, usually you just specialize in one tiny thing, like teaching history, or sound recording, or being a cashier at a supermarket. And almost everything you need in order to survive and flourish, you don't know how to do it. You depend on this huge system or network in order to do it. I don't know how to produce my shirt. I don't know how to grow my food. I don't know how to build my house. I just know how to write history books, and I get paid for that, and I take this money and I go to the supermarket and I buy the shirt and the food, and if it depended on me, I would be naked and hungry.
The Googles of this world are becoming smarter and smarter due to the algorithm they release on our knowledge. Artificial intelligence is being integrated in more and more of the technology surrounding us. That will have an uninterrupted, greater influence on our daily lives. Where will that development of artificial intelligence end?
Every day there's an announcement about a way in which AI does something that people thought only humans could do. Every day there's an announcement about a new tool used in biology to modify genes. Every day there's something that chips away at our understanding of ourselves, and so that's continuing to increase, and there'll be more and more ways in which we have to reimagine what humans are good for, why we're here, what we're doing, and we're just at the beginning of this. I mean, I think this AI revolution and the genetic revolution is just starting. And when we go into virtual reality, we have these distinctions about whole other dimensions that we haven't even seen, which will also challenge who we are, where we are, how we see ourselves. And I think that this is going to be the agenda for the next century, is that we will be involved in deciding, either individually or as a society, who we want to be. What does it mean to be a human? What should humans be doing? What do we want to do as a human? All these things are going to be coming, again, moving from the esoteric philosophical realm into daily choices that we have to make, daily headlines about our uncertainty about who we are. And I think it's going to become the norm. where we have conversations at dinner table about what we think humans should be and whether we are going to speciate or what we are doing or whether they're human or not. So this is going to become a big thing.
At the end?
Okay, hang on. Before I'm gonna let this go a bit because this is his last name's Kelly and he's a futurist. Just type in Kelly futurist. I forget his first name. I'll let you guys know. But these are the guys that are, you know, when they bring people in to talk about the future, when they, you know, bring a room of people together, experts. This is one of the guys that they bring in. This guy Kelly. My name's Jimmy. You're knee deep in the revolution, and the revolution is televised, or at least it's audioized right here, coming at you right out of the pirate radio studios here in the Santa Cruz Mountains. A little bit more of this. This is I want to keep this going just because I wasn't planning on bringing this in, but organically this is now materialized, and I think this really will put a cherry on top.
The last century, the first real trial of strength took place between humans and the computer. The famous chess match between Grandmaster Garry Kasparov and a supercomputer. And the machine won. We were no longer able to deny the role of artificial intelligence.
Almost a resignation on his face. Gary is not. He looks. I mean, he looks. What are we missing something on the chessboard now that Kasparov sees?
Garry Kasparov was the world's chess champion, and when he lost about 15 years ago to the supercomputer Deep Blue from IBM, he was very distraught.
Like he can't believe what's going on right now. And whoa! Kasparov, after the move C4, has resigned.
He later on came back and said, you know, Deep Blue had access to every single chess move that was ever done, and that's kind of unfair. Because if I had access to all those chess moves while I was playing Deep Blue, I would have won. So he decided to make a whole new chess league where you could play as a human with access to the databases. And he called the AI human team a centaur. Okay, so centaurs were this combination of the AI and the human together as a team. So I think the image that we want to take place is not working against these machines that are going to take our jobs, is that we're going to be working with them. You may in fact be paid by how well you work with them. One of the best ways to think about AI in general overall is that it's alien intelligence. It's as if we had contact with another planet and we met aliens. They're going to think differently than us. Their usefulness to us would be that because they think differently. But we'd have these issues of, you know, how do we treat them? Do we treat them equivalent to humans, different than humans? Do they have the same rights as humans? Do they have more rights? And the answer is going to be somewhat, well, it depends on the aliens, because, you know, if we had contact with more than one aliens, there would be some aliens that we might want to treat very differently. And so we're going to make up thousands of artificial aliens, and we're going to have to decide how we treat them.
Hiroshi Ishiguro is a Japanese robot builder. His robots are not yet very intelligent, but do, however, already possess human characteristics. He's mainly investigating our human responses to these kind of robots.
どうですか？触られてみて。そんなに怖がらないでください。
Well, sometimes the robot is much better than the humans because we don't.
Let me tell you something. That is one butt ugly robot. I'll tell you, I wouldn't. If that was a sex robot, I wouldn't go near it. But it doesn't look anything. Not that I'd go near one if it looked better than that. I'm just saying, if that's what they look like, I don't know. But this guy, you know, he could develop any robot he wanted. I mean, why didn't he just come out with the best possible robot he could make? But it looks kind of ugly and weird. But I'll drop the link in the chat. Yeah, I mean, it's too much. My name's Jimmy. It's into the microcosm. We are getting into the future, Futurama. The real deal right here on, oh, here we go. Right here on Revolution Radio. I'm trying to drop this in the chat for you guys. Hang on a second. It's giving me problems. No problem, though. I don't care because I'm in the mountains, up in Santa Cruz Mountains. The sun's getting ready to go down in a couple hours. It is 4:51. I got basically 5 minutes left before the time will be up. And I'm stoked on the 2 hours. I didn't know it was 2 hours, but man, it makes me feel even better. Yes, sir. My name's Jimmy. Like I said, you can join me Friday night with Epic Journeyman, my co-host. He's in the islands. He lives in Hawaii. He lives on the islands. He jumps around from island to island. And so he can't join me for this Monday show. But I do have a bunch of people, friends, some radio hosts and researchers and guests galore that I can't usually get on my late night shows. So this is going to open up a really great spot for me to bring in some of the people that I hang out with, some of the guests, and some of the other radio hosts from around the ether space. I'm going to take us out with a phone call that I made. I've been on Clyde Lewis a couple times on as a main guest on Wireless, and I recently called in. So I'm going to end this conversation with a call that I made to Clyde Lewis. Hang on a second if I can find it. With the call that I made to Clyde Lewis on 6/4. Here we go.
But that's because that's what it is. It's a war. It's a tech war. It's a war of identity. We cannot allow, for some reason, people who want to speak against the grain. You know, truth is a revolutionary act. Getting away from the emotional stuff and the biases, that's hard to do as well. Let's go to Jimmy in California. Hi, Jimmy. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, Clyde, how are you, man?
Doing great, man.
Excellent, man. You know, the new Clyde Lewis sound on this independent network is fantastic. And listen, you used to pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands. But they don't need flags and borders to motivate the population anymore. This Facebook has been weaponized long ago. They've mastered the human domain, Clyde. And everyone's been profiled and put right into a chute based on what they've liked and disliked on Facebook. Driving a crowd or driving the herd in a particular direction at this point. MIT developed a program, an application, Clyde, and this was a very, very smart application, and it was developed for veterans that come back from the war. And it was a way for their phones to detect their emotional stability at any given moment, and based on criteria that is found on their Facebook, and whether they went outside and whether they talked to people and interacted. So at this point, at 99% sure, Google will be able to predict exactly what anyone is going to do in any given moment. And for any government to think that they're at some point going to ever have control over technology that somebody else developed, that's insane.
People have been maced, and the police look like they're blocking them in.
No more Muslims.
These are people that nobody knows who they